Have you ever caught yourself mid-sentence and stopped? Not because you forgot what to say, but because you remembered who you were talking to. There's a version of you that exists only in the silence between words, in the pause before you answer, in the thoughts you swallow before they become real. This is your secret self, the one who watches from behind your eyes as you perform the role of who you're supposed to be. It knows every desire you've dressed in acceptable language, every opinion you've softened to keep the peace, every dream you've learned to laugh off as unrealistic. While the world sees your carefully curated edges, your secret self remains untouched, unwitnessed, unjudged by anyone except you. And maybe that's why it hurts so much. You live in two realities at once. The outer world where you smile, nod, agree, where you shape yourself into something digestible, something that fits. And the inner world, vast and wild, where your real thoughts roam freely in the dark. No one tells you how exhausting this is, how much energy it takes to be both the person people expect and the person you actually are. You learn to speak in coded language, to hide your intensity behind casual words, to shrink your complexity into bite-sized pieces others can swallow without choking. But your secret self never shrinks. It only goes deeper, further from the light, building a home in the shadows of your consciousness where no one else is invited. The loneliest part isn't the hiding itself. It's the fear that if people knew, really knew, they would leave. So you protect them from your depths, from the parts of you that feel too much, think too much, want too much. You convince yourself it's kindness, this self-censorship, this careful curation of your humanity. But late at night, when the performance ends and you're alone with your thoughts, you feel the weight of it. Every unexpressed truth, every swallowed word, every version of yourself you abandoned to be loved. Your secret self isn't a separate entity. It's you, the raw, unfiltered, uncensored you that you've learned to lock away because the world taught you that authenticity has a price, and you weren't sure you could afford to pay it. So you split yourself in two, the one they see and the one only you know. And somewhere between those two versions, you lost track of which one is real. You weren't born hiding. There was a time, brief and golden, when you existed without translation, when your thoughts flowed directly into words without passing through the filter of fear. You cried when you were sad, laughed too loud, asked questions that made adults uncomfortable, loved without strategy. You were whole then, undivided, a single stream of consciousness moving freely through the world. But something happened. Maybe it was gradual, so slow you didn't notice the walls building themselves inside you. Or maybe it was sudden, a single moment that taught you the most important lesson of your life. Not all of you is welcome here. Perhaps it was the first time you shared something true and watched the room go quiet. The way faces changed when you said what you actually thought, when you expressed what you genuinely felt. You learned to read the micro-expressions, the slight withdrawal, the uncomfortable laugh that meant you'd gone too far, revealed too much, been too honest for comfort. Or maybe it was gentler than that. A parent who loved you but couldn't hold all of your emotions, who needed you to be easier, quieter, less complicated. So you became smaller, not in body but in spirit. You began to edit yourself in real time, calculating which parts of your personality were safe to show and which ones needed to stay hidden. The secret self wasn't born from malice or trauma alone. Sometimes it was born from love, from the desperate need to keep the people you loved from being overwhelmed by the entirety of who you are. Psychology calls this conditioning, the process by which you learn what behaviours earn approval and which ones earn rejection. But it feels less clinical than that. It feels like survival. Every child learns to read their environment, to sense what's acceptable and what isn't. Some children learn they're too sensitive, so they build walls around their feelings. Others learn they're too intense, too curious, too different, and they begin the long process of becoming palatable. You absorb the unspoken rules like a language, fluent in the art of self-suppression before you even understood what you were doing. The secret self emerged not as an act of rebellion, but as an act of preservation, a sanctuary where the parts of you that didn't fit could continue to exist, just out of sight. And once it began, it never stopped. Every time you bit your tongue, every time you performed enthusiasm you didn't feel, every time you hid your darkness to maintain someone's comfort, your secret self grew stronger, more complex, more separate from the person you pretended to be. You became an expert at living between worlds, at code switching between your inner truth and outer performance. But the cost was always the same, the growing distance between who you are and who you allow yourself to be. You started hiding so young you don't even remember deciding to do it. It just became the way you moved through the world, automatic as breathing, invisible as air. And now, years later, you're not even sure where the performance ends and the real you begins. Carl Jung understood something most people spend their entire lives avoiding. You are not just the person you think you are. Beneath the carefully constructed identity you present to the world, beneath the self-image you've worked so hard to maintain, there exists another you. Jung called it the shadow, the repository of everything you've deemed unacceptable about yourself. Every selfish impulse you've suppressed, every dark thought you've judged, every desire that contradicts the person you're trying to be. It doesn't disappear just because you refuse to look at it. It lives in the basement of your psyche, growing stronger in the darkness, influencing your behavior in ways you don't consciously understand. Your secret self isn't just what you hide from others, it's what you hide from yourself. The shadow forms through a process psychologists call repression, the mind's defense mechanism for dealing with thoughts and feelings that threaten your sense of identity. You learn early what kind of person you're supposed to be: good, kind, rational, controlled. And anything that doesn't fit that image gets pushed down, buried beneath layers of denial and distraction. But the human psyche doesn't work like a trash bin. You can't just discard the parts of yourself you don't like. They remain alive and active, speaking through your dreams, your slip-ups, your inexplicable reactions to situations that shouldn't affect you so deeply. You snap at someone and don't know why. You sabotage relationships that get too close. You feel rage or jealousy or desire and immediately smother it with shame, telling yourself that good people don't feel this way. But you do feel it. And the more you fight it, the more power it has over you. In neuroscience, they've discovered that suppressing thoughts actually strengthens them, a phenomenon called ironic process theory. Tell yourself not to think about something, and your brain becomes hyper-aware of it, monitoring constantly to ensure you're not thinking about the forbidden thought. This is why your secret self never truly stays hidden. It leaks out in passive aggression, in the stories you consume, in the people you judge most harshly. Jung believed that what you resist in yourself, you'll see everywhere else, projecting your shadow onto others because it's easier to condemn it out there than to acknowledge it in here. The colleague you find unbearably arrogant might be reflecting the ambition you've suppressed in yourself. The friend whose emotional messiness annoys you might be showing you the vulnerability you've learned to hide. Your secret self doesn't just contain darkness, it contains everything you've been taught to exile, including parts of you that are wild, creative, authentic, alive. The tragedy is that in trying to be good, you make yourself incomplete. You split yourself into acceptable and unacceptable, light and shadow, the self you show and the self you bury. And this division creates a constant internal war, an exhausting battle against your own nature. You police your thoughts, monitor your feelings, censor your desires, all in service of maintaining an identity that feels increasingly like a performance. But the shadow doesn't want to destroy you. It wants to be integrated, acknowledged, brought into the light where it can stop controlling you from the darkness. Your secret self isn't your enemy. It's the part of you that's been waiting, sometimes for decades, to finally be seen. Not judged, not fixed, not eliminated, just seen. And maybe, if you're brave enough, accepted as part of the whole messy, complicated, beautiful truth of who you actually are. Your secret self holds the truths you're too afraid to speak aloud, even to yourself. It knows you hate your job, that you've been performing passion for years while feeling hollow inside. It knows you're not in love anymore, or maybe you never were, but the idea of starting over terrifies you more than staying in something that slowly drains the colour from your life. It knows the dreams you've dismissed as childish or impossible, the version of yourself you buried under responsibilities and reasonable expectations. While you tell everyone you're fine, your secret self sits in the dark catalogue of every lie you tell to keep the machinery of your life running smoothly. It knows what you want. and it knows exactly why you won't let yourself have it. There are desires living inside you that contradict everything you've built. Maybe you've created a life that looks successful from the outside, stable career, good relationships, all the markers of having figured it out. But your secret self knows you fantasize about burning it all down, walking away, starting over as someone completely different. It holds the dreams that don't fit your current identity. The artist hiding inside the accountant, the wanderer trapped in the suburbs, the person who craves solitude living a life filled with obligations to others. These aren't passing thoughts. They're fundamental truths about who you are that you've learned to ignore because acknowledging them would require change. And change means uncertainty, loss, the terrifying possibility of disappointing everyone who believes they know you. Your secret self also knows your fears with brutal clarity. It knows you're afraid of being ordinary, of reaching the end of your life and realizing you never truly lived, that you spent decades performing a role someone else wrote for you. It knows you're afraid of your own potential, that success might be more terrifying than failure because then you'd have no more excuses, no more safety in staying small. It knows you judge yourself more harshly than anyone else ever could, that the voice in your head is crueler than any critic you'll ever face. While you present confidence to the world, your secret self carries every moment of doubt, every instance of imposter syndrome, every night you've laid awake wondering if you're fooling everyone or if everyone is fooling you. But your secret self doesn't only hold darkness and fear, it also protects the most tender parts of you, the hopes you're too vulnerable to share, the belief that you're meant for something more, even though you can't articulate what that means, the wild faith that life could be different, better, truer, if only you were brave enough to pursue it. It holds the person you become when no one's watching, when you can finally drop the performance and exist without justification. It knows what makes you come alive, what you'd do if money and judgment weren't factors, who you'd be if you weren't so afraid of being rejected for it. Your secret self is the keeper of your authentic desires, the ones that don't fit neatly into your current narrative, the ones that would require you to admit that maybe you've been wrong about what you need, about who you are, about what would actually make you happy. And that knowledge sits inside you like a stone, heavy and undeniable, waiting for the day you're finally ready to pick it up and examine it in the light. The question your secret self keeps asking, the one you pretend not to hear, is simple and devastating. How long are you willing to live as a fraction of yourself? How many more years will you sacrifice authenticity for acceptance, truth for comfort, your real life for the safe performance of one? Your secret self already knows the answer. It's been counting the days. There's a battle happening inside you that no one else can see. Every morning you wake up and choose which version of yourself gets to exist today, which thoughts are allowed to surface, and which ones must be pushed back down into the dark. It's exhausting, this constant negotiation between who you are and who you need to be, between authenticity and survival. You've become a mediator in your own mind, trying to broker peace between two sides that want fundamentally different things. One side craves truth, freedom, the wild relief of finally being yourself without apology. The other side craves safety, belonging, the comfort of being accepted even if it means being unseen. And you're caught in the middle, torn apart by the impossible task of satisfying both. This internal conflict has a name in psychology: cognitive dissonance, the mental strain of holding two contradictory beliefs simultaneously. You believe you deserve to be authentic, and you believe authenticity will cost you everything. You want to be known, and you're terrified of being seen. You crave freedom, and you've built a prison of expectations you're too afraid to escape. The dissonance creates a constant low-grade anxiety, a background hum of wrongness that you've learned to live with but never quite ignore. You feel it in your body, the tension in your shoulders, the knot in your stomach, the exhaustion that sleep never fully resolves. This is what happens when you spend years at war with yourself. The battlefield is your own nervous system, and there's no ceasefire, no treaty, no moment when you're allowed to lay down arms and just exist. The guilt is perhaps the worst part. You judge yourself for having a secret self at all, as if the mere existence of hidden thoughts makes you a liar, a fraud, a fundamentally dishonest person. You shame yourself for the gap between your inner world and outer presentation, for not being brave enough to bridge it, for not being simple enough to eliminate it. When you're alone, you rehearse conversations where you finally tell the truth, where you reveal what you actually think and feel. But when the moment comes, you swallow it down again, choose peace over honesty, acceptance over authenticity, and then you hate yourself for it. You hate your cowardice, your people-pleasing, your inability to just be real. But what choice do you have? You've seen what happens to people who speak their truth without filter. You've watched them be labelled difficult, intense, too much. You've learned that radical honesty is a luxury afforded only to those who can survive rejection, and you're not sure you're one of them. So you continue the performance, but now you're conscious of it, and that consciousness makes everything worse. You can't unsee the split, can't unknow the gap between your two selves. You watch yourself laughing at jokes you don't find funny, nodding along with opinions you don't share, performing enthusiasm for a life you're ambivalent about. And with every performance, the war intensifies. Your secret self grows resentful, claustrophobic, desperate for air. It starts to rebel in small ways. The sarcastic comment that slips out, the sudden irritability you can't explain, the numbness that descends when you're supposed to be happy. These are not character flaws. They're symptoms of a self under siege, fragments of your truth trying to break through the barricades you've built. You think you're protecting others by hiding yourself, but really you're just slowly suffocating, using all your energy to keep the lid on something that was never meant to be contained. The exhaustion you feel isn't from living. It's from preventing yourself from living, from spending every day as both prisoner and guard in a jail you've built, from other people's expectations and your own fear. And the cruelest part is that no one even asked you to do this. You assumed what they could handle, decided for them what version of you they deserved, and locked the rest away before they had a chance to reject it. Now you're trapped in a pattern so old you can't remember how it started, fighting a war with no clear enemy and no possibility of victory, just an endless, grinding stalemate between the person you are and the person you've agreed to be. You can't keep secrets from yourself forever. No matter how deep you bury them, how tightly you control your thoughts, how carefully you curate your life, your secret self finds ways to speak. It doesn't ask for permission. It doesn't wait for the right moment. It emerges in the cracks of your composure, in the moments when your guard drops and something true slips through before you can catch it. You're in the middle of a normal conversation, and suddenly you've said too much, revealed something you didn't mean to share, and you watch the words hang in the air like evidence of who you really are. Your heart races. You laugh it off, change the subject, hope they didn't notice. But you noticed, and your secret self just reminded you that it's still there, still alive, still refusing to be silenced completely. It speaks through your dreams, those strange theatres where your unconscious mind gets to direct the show without your waking self's interference. You dream of running away, of confrontation, of finally saying what you've kept locked inside. You dream in symbols and metaphors that your rational mind struggles to decode, but your body understands perfectly. You wake up with your chest tight, your eyes wet, your heart pounding from conversations that never happened, except in the place where your secret self roams free. Freud called dreams the royal road to the unconscious, and he was right. While you sleep, the walls come down, the performance ends, and everything you've repressed gets its moment on stage. Sometimes you remember them vividly. Other times, just a feeling lingers, a residue of truth your waking mind can't quite grasp but can't fully forget. Your secret self speaks through the art you consume, the stories that make you cry for reasons you can't articulate, the songs that feel like they were written about your specific pain. You're drawn to characters who live authentically, who burn bridges, who choose truth over comfort, and you tell yourself you're just entertained. But really, you're watching them live the life your secret self wants, making the choices you're too afraid to make. You feel it in your body when a lyric lands, when a scene captures something you felt but never named, when someone else's art gives language to your hidden experience. These moments of recognition are your secret self saying, "See, you're not alone in this. Other people feel it too. Maybe your truth isn't as dangerous as you think." But then the song ends. The movie's over, and you return to your carefully managed life, the moment of connection fading like a dream. It speaks through your body when your mind refuses to listen. The tension headaches that appear before family gatherings where you'll have to perform. The stomach problems that plague you in environments where you can't be yourself. The exhaustion that no amount of sleep can fix because it is not your body that's tired, it's your soul, worn out from the constant effort of hiding. Psychologists call this somatization, when psychological distress manifests as physical symptoms. Your secret self doesn't have words, so it speaks in sensation, in pain, in the language of a body that knows it's living a lie even if your conscious mind won't admit it. You take medicine, try to fix the symptoms, but they keep returning because the real problem isn't physical, it's existential. Your body is trying to tell you something your mind doesn't want to hear. And then there are the slip-ups, the Freudian slips, when you accidentally tell the truth. You mean to say one thing and something else comes out, something more honest, more revealing. You joke about hating your life, then quickly add, just kidding, but everyone heard the truth in your voice before the correction. You let a comment slip about someone you're supposed to like, revealing the resentment you've been carefully hiding. You forget to censor yourself for one moment, and your real opinion surfaces, naked and undeniable. These aren't accidents, they're eruptions, moments when the pressure becomes too great and your secret self breaks through the surface like a whale breaching, desperate for air. You scramble to cover it up, to rebuild the walls, but the damage is done. For one brief moment, people saw the real you, and now you have to live with the fear that they noticed, that they're wondering what else you're hiding, that the mask has finally started to crack. Your secret self isn't trying to sabotage you, it's trying to save you, speaking louder and louder until you finally listen, until you stop running from the truth of who you are. But listening means change, and change means risk, and you're not ready yet. So you keep performing, keep hiding, keep pretending the whispers aren't getting louder, that the cracks aren't spreading, that you can maintain this forever. But deep down, you know you can't. Your secret self is speaking, and one day you won't be able to ignore it anymore. There comes a moment, quiet and unremarkable, when you realize you can't do this anymore. Not dramatically, not with fanfare, just a simple recognition that the cost of hiding has become greater than the cost of being seen. You're tired. Not the kind of tired that sleep fixes, but the soul-deep exhaustion of spending years at war with yourself. And in that tiredness, something shifts. Maybe you don't have the energy to maintain the performance anymore. Maybe you've finally reached the limit of how long you can live as a fraction of yourself. Or maybe you just looked in the mirror one day and didn't recognize the person staring back, and you realized that in protecting yourself from rejection, you've rejected yourself more thoroughly than anyone else ever could. Befriending your secret self doesn't mean revealing everything to everyone. It doesn't require dramatic confessions or burning your life down. It starts smaller, quieter, with the radical act of stopping the internal war. What if the parts of you that you've labelled unacceptable aren't flaws to be fixed but fragments to be integrated? What if your darkness isn't evidence of your brokenness but proof of your depth? Jung believed that wholeness comes not from eliminating the shadow, but from acknowledging it, bringing it into consciousness where it can be understood rather than feared. This doesn't mean acting on every impulse or thought. It means ending the exhausting pretense that they don't exist, that you're somehow above the messy, complicated reality of being human. Your secret self isn't asking for permission to take over your life, it's asking for permission to exist, to be acknowledged, to stop being treated like an enemy. The process is uncomfortable, like meeting a stranger who knows all your secrets because they are your secrets. You start paying attention to the thoughts you usually push away, the feelings you've learned to suppress, the desires you've dismissed as impossible or wrong. You sit with them instead of running. You ask them questions instead of silencing them. Why do I feel this way? What is this part of me trying to tell me? What would it mean to honor this truth, even if I can't act on it right now? Slowly, carefully, you begin to build a relationship with the parts of yourself you've exiled, and something strange happens. The more you acknowledge them, the less power they have over you. The thoughts you fought so hard to suppress lose their urgency when you stop fighting them. The desires that felt dangerous become manageable when you allow yourself to simply feel them without judgment. Integration doesn't mean your secret self disappears. It means it stops being secret, stops being shameful, stops being the enemy you have to constantly guard against. This doesn't mean everyone gets access to your whole self. Boundaries are still necessary, discernment still matters, and not everyone has earned the right to your unfiltered truth. But there's a difference between choosing what to share and being terrified of being known. There's a difference between privacy and self-abandonment. You learn to recognize the people who can hold your complexity, who don't need you to be simple or easy or uncomplicated. And with them, Slowly, you begin to lower the walls. You test the waters with small truths, revealing pieces of your secret self and discovering that the catastrophe you feared doesn't happen. Sometimes people leave, and it hurts, but you realize that losing someone who only loved your performance isn't the same as losing someone who loved you. And the people who stay, the ones who meet your authenticity with their own, become the witnesses to your wholeness in a way that feels like coming home. The relationship with your secret self becomes a practice, not a destination. Some days you'll still hide, still perform, still choose safety over truth, and that's okay. You're not aiming for perfection, but for integration, for a life where more of you gets to exist in the light. You start making small choices in alignment with your hidden truths. A career shift that honors what you actually care about, not what you think you should care about. A conversation where you share your real opinion, even if your voice shakes. A boundary that protects your energy, even if it disappoints someone. These moments of authenticity compound, building a life that feels increasingly like yours, less like a performance, and more like an existence you can actually inhabit. And your secret self, the one that's been waiting in the shadows for years, decades maybe, finally begins to relax. Not because the world has become safer, but because you've become brave enough to exist in it as you actually are. The deepest truth is this: your secret self was never the problem. The problem was the belief that you had to split yourself to be loved, that wholeness was too much, that your complexity was a burden rather than a gift. You spent years protecting others from your depths, but maybe what you were really protecting was yourself from the vulnerability of being fully seen. And maybe, just maybe, the greatest act of courage isn't revealing yourself to the world. It's revealing yourself to yourself, looking at every hidden corner of your psyche and saying, "This is me, all of it. The light and the shadow, the acceptable and the forbidden, the person I show and the person I hide. And all of it, every contradictory, messy, beautiful piece of it, deserves to exist." Your secret self isn't a stranger anymore. It's you. It's always been you. And you're finally ready to stop running from that truth.